Welcome to this video presentation of self-sustainment. We have briefly looked at the self-sustainment in earlier presentations, and now it's time for all the details. We will in this presentation look closer into generic fair market value for the self-sustainment categories, environmental enhancement factor for the tentage and accommodation, self-sustainment service reimbursed as major equipment, unique equipment, force assets, and temporary operating base premium reimbursement. From earlier presentations, we know the self-sustainment categories in detail. We know that the arrangement for rent of freezers and refrigerators can be made through the United Nations food contractor. We know the term force assets, but do not know how they are reimbursed in details. And we know that the United Nations is responsible for providing all contingents with accommodations within 6 months of the mission. If not, the troop of police contributors will receive reimbursement for both tentage and accommodation. After this presentation, you should be able to explain the term self-sustainment service and its connection to the major equipment. Explain the environmental enhancement factor. Explain how force assets are reimbursed. And explain the temporary operating base premium reimbursement. The CE Manual Chapter 3 Annex B contains all regulations and performance standards for minor equipment and consumables provided within the self-sustainment categories. This slide is very familiar. We already know very well the 18 different logistic categories, also called self-sustainment categories. We have a few comments on some of the categories. Identification will only be reimbursed when requested by the United Nations. This category is for only a few special types of units. We can therefore forget this category. Nuclear, biological, and chemical protection will only be reimbursed when requested by the United Nations. This category is very seldom in use, since the United Nations do not want to send troops or police to polluted areas. We can therefore forget this category. Field defense stores will only be reimbursed when requested by the United Nations. Since the United Nations always provides field defense stores, we can forget this category. Accommodation. We know that the United Nations is responsible for providing all contingents with accommodation within 6 months of the mission. Only a very few member states actually build their accommodation themselves. We can therefore forget this category. Explosive ordnance disposal. This category is normally for providing this service for your own camp and closest area. Normally, this task or service will be given to a special trained EOD unit after 16 months. If a troop or police contributor deployed to a mission that already has existed for several years, this category will already be solved by a force asset unit. Self-sustainment is defined as the logistic support concept for a troop or police contributor, whereby the contributing unit provides some specific or all logistic supports to the contingent on a reimbursable basis. The modular concept of self-sustainment is based on the principle that a troop or police contributor cannot be partly self-sustained in any given category. If you have 100 troops, it is not enough to provide food or accommodation for only 90 of them. You either deliver to all 100 troops, or there will be no reimbursement. The required self-sustainment categories and any supplementary arrangements will be indicated in the Memorandum of Understanding. The agreed level will include the capacity to provide and maintain the necessary resources and personnel to support the contingent administratively and logistically for the duration of the mission. The troop or police contributors must provide all minor equipment, maintenance and consumables associated to each self-sustainment category. If the United Nations provide services related to the self-sustainment, the troop or police contributor will not be reimbursed. The troop or police contributor may procure from a civilian supplier or arrange services from another troop or police contributor by bilateral agreements. The rates for self-sustainment includes a premium of 2% to compensate for the cost of self-sustainment resupply, equal to the maintenance rate for major equipment. The COE Manual, Chapter 8, Annex B, lists all the self-sustainment categories' reimbursement rates. The monthly reimbursement rates are all agreed by the member states. The rates are rather different from the major equipment rates. In self-sustainment, we only have the monthly rate per person per month. This monthly rate is multiplied with the actual troop or police strength up to the personnel ceiling agreed upon in the Memorandum of Understanding. The monthly reimbursement rate includes all items associated with the category. United Nations will only reimburse the troop or police contributor for those self-sustainment categories that the troop or police contributor provides and agreed upon in the Memorandum of Understanding. Those categories that the United Nations provides will not be reimbursed, even if the troop or police contributor also provides the same category. Again, we use the number of troop or police that are agreed upon in the Memorandum of Understanding, Annex A. Example: a military infantry battalion has 850 troops. If you look at the category office, the requirement is the ability to provide furniture, equipment, and supplies to all unit headquarters staff. For the entire battalion, we will probably need less than 50 offices, desks and furniture, etc. The reimbursement will be the generic fair market value rate of the office multiplied with the number of troops. In this example, 850. Not only the number of personnel that will physically have an office. Similar with all the other self-sustainment categories. We use the number of troops or police that is agreed upon in the Memorandum of Understanding, Annex A, and not the actual number that will use the category. Another example, the category observation. Surely no troop or police contributor will bring one handheld binoculars and one night vision observation equipment and one global position system for each of the 850 troops. If the troop or police contributor fulfill the operational requirement for observation listed in the Statement of Unit Requirement, the reimbursement will be the generic fair market value for observation multiplied with the number of troops, 850. Tentage and accommodation. For troop or police contributor that provide tentage or accommodation shown to have additional features included, which are designed to improve the heating or cooling effectiveness and efficiency of the facility, and environmental enhancement supplement of the additional 5% of the reimbursement rate will be added. The United Nations is responsible for providing all contingents with accommodation within 6 months of the mission. If the United Nations cannot provide accommodation within the time limit, the United Nations reimburses the contingent both for tentage and accommodation rate. The soldiers or the police still has to sleep in tents, but the government are reimbursed a little bit more. When the United Nations provides accommodation, the troop or police contributors tentage, if not required, and on request from the troop or police contributors, will be repatriated back to the troop police contributors' country under United Nations arrangements whenever logistical and financial feasible. The listed items on this slide are listed as major equipment in the CV Manual, Chapter 8, Annex A. When these major equipment items is used in a self-sustainment role, they will be reimbursed as major equipment. Warehouse and storage, ablution facilities, generators, water treatment plant, water storage, either trucks or trailers, fuel storage, fuel trucks, fuel trailers, recovery vehicles, ammunition and mortuary containers, unique equipment, any special minor equipment or consumables not covered in the above self-sustainment rates will be treated as unique equipment. These items will be handled on a bilateral special case between the troop contributor and the United Nations. Force assets or force level units is a unit that provides service such as communication, medical or engineer services on a force level. This is a service that normally would be reimbursed only under self-sustainment. For a normal unit, the requirement needed to provide such service would be considered as minor equipment. A force asset unit is reimbursed both under major equipment and under self-sustainment. Major equipment reimbursement for the equipment itself and self-sustainment reimbursement for using the equipment. Some examples, see the photos on the slide. A communication unit that provides all communication, including the equipment, in an area or camp that consists of more than one troop or police contributor. A medical hospital, example level 2, that provides medical services for more than one troop or police contributor. An EOD unit that provides EOD services for an area or a camp that consists of more than one troop or police contributor. If a troop or police contributor receives services from a force asset belonging to another troop or police contributor, the supported contingent will not receive self-sustainment reimbursement for those categories that are provided by the force asset. Why is not a transportation unit a force asset, but only an enabling unit? Because it does not exist any self-sustainment categories for transportation. Same for construction engineer units, road construction, etc. These units will therefore be treated as enabling units. On this slide, we will explain the self-sustainment reimbursement for a force asset unit. Medical support. Similar will be for force asset unit for communications or for EOD. Here we have listed 13 different units from a non-existing United Nations mission. Do not pay so much attention to the flags or the kind of unit. The red number is the total personal strength of troops in each unit. The unit is responsible for the body first aid kit that's carried by all the troops or police, and the communal first aid kit, which is in all vehicles, in kitchen, in maintenance stores, etc. And they will be reimbursed for the generic fair market value for both the body and the communal first aid kit, multiplied with the total personnel strength of the troop. The units are also responsible for level 1 medical facility and will be reimbursed the generic fair market value for medical level 1 multiplied with the total personnel strength of troops. Some units has decided to share level 1, as depicted on the slide. Only the unit that provides the level 1 will be reimbursed, with the generic fair market value for medical level 1 multiplied with the total strength from the supported troops. Next is level 2 medical facility. This is organized by a force asset unit. In this example, 2 different level 2 medical facilities. Only these 2 units will be reimbursed the generic fair market value for medical level 2 multiplied with the total personnel strength from the supported troops. In this example, Jordan will be reimbursed for 1,918 troops and Nigeria for 2,669 troops. If a contingent receives services from a force asset belonging to another troop or police contributing country, the supported contingent will not be entitled to self-sustainment reimbursement for those categories that are provided by the force asset. Units that has been ordered to deploy to more than 3 temporary operating bases for a cumulative period of more than 1 year in one peacekeeping budget period for mandate-related tasks and operational requirements are entitled to additional 5% reimbursement for the following self-sustainment categories, as agreed in Annex C to the Memorandum of Understanding. Talking about catering, communication, explosive ordnance disposal, field defense stores, and tentage. See the COE Manual, Chapter 8, for details and preconditions. We have in this presentation introduced you to the self-sustainment and all its specialities. The generic fair market value for the self-sustainment categories, the environmental enhancement factor for tentage and accommodations, the self-sustainment services reimbursed as major equipment, unique equipment, force asset units and how they are reimbursed, and the temporary operating base premium reimbursement. It is a comprehensive presentation with many details. We recommend that you save a PDF copy of the presentation and use it as a guide document together with the COE manual when discussing possible participating in a United Nations mission. Key takeaway: the self-sustainment is based on the principle that the troop of police contributors cannot be partially self-sustained in any given category. And force asset units is reimbursed under both major equipment and self-sustainment. Major equipment reimbursement for the equipment and self-sustainment reimbursement for use of the equipment. Thank you for following the presentation.